Going back to school or starting grade 1. But not everyone has had their chance at school on time. Most of the 8 children from the Masemola family will be starting school for the very first time this year. They missed out on a number of their schooling years because they didn't have birth certificates. The youngest child is 3, while the oldest is 19. Reporter Masahora Hlaha spoke to the family and joins me in studio now. Masahora, thank you so much for talking to us. Why are these children not in school?
These poor kids were born at home. They were not born in a hospital setting. So the mother actually gave birth at home with the help of aunts and sisters and so on. So they didn't have their births registered. And ever since then, she didn't go to the hospital or to the Home Affairs to try and get some help. The children, the oldest of the children, the one you say is 19, is actually turning 20 now in February. And she was explaining that her and her brother, they are like following each other in terms of, she's the first one, he's second after her. And she says they were looking for help, but they just could not find help anywhere. So basically, they found themselves not being able to go to school because, without an identity, without your birth being registered, you can't do anything. You can't go to school because there's no school that will accept a child that doesn't have a birth certificate unless it's an overnight school, a school that is actually not really a school. So that's
And
how
what reasons were given by the mother to not have registered these births?
To be honest with you, Bongiwe, she didn't have a proper explanation. When we were there with government last year in September, that's when we first met the Masemola family. She was there. She couldn't really explain why she didn't later go, which means if the children don't have birth certificates, it means all the immunization that they had to go through for 6 years, 12 years, all of that they missed. Luckily, there's the 3-year-old who still has a chance, for instance. But she didn't really have a proper explanation except to say that they were born at home. And after that, when she would go to the hospital, she would not get the proper help. So her explanation actually not really, hers and the father actually, not really very forthcoming as to why.
And what is going to become, because as you talk about the 3-year-old, the 3-year-old will still be able to recover somewhat. But what recovery plan is being put in place for the 19-year-old who still has no idea how to read or write?
Well, the 19-year-old, luckily, she actually went to one of those schools that were not registered for a couple of years in her life. So at least for her, it means that, after the assessments that they went through since last year, it means that she gets to go to grade 10.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, so at least with her, it's not that bad. It's just a 4-year setback. But for instance, her 13-year-old brother will have to go to grade 3. That's where he has to start because he's never set foot in a classroom. He's never been to school. He's 13, and therefore he has to go to grade 3. So for instance, Katleho Masemola, his life has been set back by about 6-7 years, his entire life. So those are the repercussions that have now been caused. But like I said, the department, or rather the government, including the Gauteng the Department of Basic Education in Gauteng, they just made sure that these children would be assessed so that they can see where they can place them. But unfortunately for a boy like Katleho, he's never been to school. So even at 13, he doesn't start at grade 1, but he starts at grade 3. So he'll be with kids who are 8-9 years old while he's 13. And you can imagine what repercussions that has on a child by the time they are perhaps in grade 7. And other kids realize that he's older, the name calling. Kids are very honest people. So they'll start calling him names probably and teasing him and not really knowing what the story really is. So all we hope is that now that they are able to go to school, they'll at least be able to move on with their lives. But in terms of where they start, unfortunately, the damage has been done.
Are we seeing this report from you later?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you very much. That was ENC reporter Masahora Hlaha.